Good morning. Today I would like to share with you a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. These cookies are gluten-free and refined sugar-free. And I know what you're saying, they're probably taste-free too. But that is not the case. These cookies are absolutely amazing. My husband and I both have thyroid issues and therefore cannot have gluten. When I stumbled upon this recipe, it was a winner. I probably make them 2 to 3 times a month and cannot keep them in the refrigerator because they disappear so quickly. Before I get started, I'd like to share a couple things that I do differently. With these cookies, I use the chocolate chips from the company Choc Zero. Hopefully everybody can see that. These chips I found online. You can also get them from Amazon. First look at them, you're going to think that's ridiculous. I'm not paying $19.98 for a bag of chocolate chips. The difference is these chips are come in a 20-ounce bag. I can get 4 batches of cookies out of 1 bag. So if you divide that by 4, you're paying about $5 for a bag of chocolate chips for these cookies. If you go to the grocery store and buy a bag of keto or sugar-free chocolate chips, you're going to pay the same amount. The difference I like with these chocolate chips is that the taste is amazing. They do not taste sugar-free. They are very chocolatey. They hold up very well in the cookies. And again, they're delicious. So you might want to give those a try when you're making the cookies because that could make the difference. When I found this recipe, there are a couple of things I tweaked in it, and I will go over those as we get into the recipe. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started. In my sifter here, I have 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of almond flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a half teaspoon of baking soda. The recipe also calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. However, if you are using salted butter, you're going to omit the salt, which I have done in this case. So this recipe calls for these items to be sifted before adding the wet ingredients. So that's what we're going to do. So we're just going to sift these together. Kind of shake them off a little bit. Now, if you have a recipe that says 1 cup flour sifted, that means you're going to sift it first and then measure it. This recipe calls for sifting before measuring, so that's what we've done here. And this just makes it, the almond flour, just a little bit finer. I buy the fine to begin with, but this just breaks it down just a little bit more. And then I just take the clumps in there and just kind of push them through the grate there. Make sure everything's off the edges. Okay? So there we have our first ingredients that are sifted. Then it says in a separate bowl we're going to mix together the melted butter, which I have here. This is 1 stick, 1 cube of butter, which is 1/2 cup. We're going to put in 3/4 cups of maple syrup. Now the recipe called for a lesser amount of maple syrup. This is where I tweaked it. To me, the cookies weren't quite sweet enough, so I upped that. You can lower that or add more if you would like. We're going to put in 1 large egg and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I actually make my vanilla, it's homemade. If you would like the recipe for that, just let me know and I will send that to you. Just leave a comment in the notes or leave a request in the notes and I'll send it to you. So I'm just going to give that a good mix. This is a really easy recipe too. And then we're going to add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. And you're going to stir it up and that's it. Your chocolate chip cookies are done. Very easy recipe, no beating, no creaming. It just mixes together. Now, you'll notice that this is very wet and not consistent with a chocolate chip cookie batter that you would normally make. Because I tweaked the recipe and added more maple syrup than it called for, that is what's causing it to be a wet batter. So what I do is I take some gluten-free flour. This is 1-to-1 baking flour, but it's gluten-free, and I just add a little bit at a time. You can go anywhere from a 1.25 cups up to a 1.5 cups, but you just want it to be the consistency of chocolate chip cookie dough. So still pretty wet, so I'm going to keep adding the flour. And again, this that I have measured in the bowl is 1.5 cups. I may not use all of it. Again, I'm just trying to get it to the consistency of a cookie dough batter. So almost there. Want a little bit thicker so we can roll those cookies. And then once you have this all mixed up, we're going to add the chocolate chips, and then we're going to be done. So it looks like it's going to take all of it, so I'm going to go ahead and put the rest. So again, that was 1.5 cups of gluten-free flour, and it's the 1-to-1 baking flour for gluten-free. Okay, so it looks like we've got it at the right consistency now. You can see it's a little bit thicker, and it sticks to the spoon. It doesn't fall out of there. So I'm going to add the 1 cup of Choc Zero chocolate chips. You can add more or less if you like, but the 1 cup seems to work. And then we're going to go ahead and give these a good mix and get everything all incorporated. Okay, now you can use a cookie scoop for the next part of this, or you can do it by hand, by spoon or by hand. I tend to do it by hand. So I'll grab the cookie sheet and bring it back, and we'll get these rolled. Okay, I've prepared my baking sheet. You'll notice in a lot of my videos, I love cooking with parchment paper. It makes for such an easy cleanup with everything. The cookies don't stick to it. Just a great item to have on hand. So when you roll these cookies, again, I do it by hand. You can make them as little or as big as you would like. I usually do them in balls that are about that size, and you're just going to start lining them. Let me see where I can get you to see here. Just start lining them, and you can put them fairly close because these are not going to spread out. We are going to bake them for 10 minutes and then help them spread out, and I'll show you that when it's time to take them out of the oven. So again, I just take a good size portion of the batter and just roll a ball. And again, make them big as small as you want. If you make them small, you can get about 32 cookies out of them. Otherwise, it'll make about 2 dozen. When I turned the camera off to roll out the remainder of the dough was really sticking to my hands. So as a good rule of thumb, if the dough is sticking to your hands, it is still too wet. And that's another nice thing about this recipe. If that happens, just stop what you're doing, add a little bit more of the gluten-free flour to the batter, and try rolling them out again. The batter should not stick to your hands. So just wanted to let you know that. So here I have this batch made 32 cookies, and you can see what size the cookie balls ended up being. So again, you can make them smaller and have a bigger batch of cookies, or you can leave them this size. I'll be back in a few minutes for me. It'll be a second for you while I pop these in the oven. They are going to bake at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. It's important to take them out at the 10-minute mark because we are going to do one more step to help these cookies out. So I'll see you in a few seconds. Alrighty, we've hit the 10-minute mark. So I've taken the cookies out of the oven, and you can see, like I said, they did not spread out. They're not meant to. What you're going to do is you're going to take a small glass with a small bottom about the same size of the cookies, or if something else works better for you. And I'm just going to start in the middle so everybody can see, and you're just going to barely push down on them. You're going to kind of flatten them out. When we're done flattening them out, we're going to return these cookies back to the oven, and they're going to cook for an additional 2 to 3 minutes. I highly, strongly suggest you not cook them more than the additional 3 minutes. If you do, they're going to get hard. So if you take them out, let them cool. Once they're cool, I put them in a Tupperware container or whatever container you'd like, and I store them in the refrigerator. They taste better, they last longer, and have a better consistency if you place them in the refrigerator. The other thing I wanted to mention is this is the flour that I use for gluten-free flour. Obviously, I'm out of it now, but it's the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 flour. So I'm going to pop these back in for another 2 to 3 minutes, and when we're done, I'm going to put them in the refrigerator just like we talked about. As always, if you happen to try the recipe and you like it or have any comments, I would greatly love to hear about it. So thank you for watching today, and I hope you give these awesome cookies a try. Have a blessed day.